Hey you guys, it's me again, Shy Gemini. I just wanted to come in here and actually talk about the Iyanla Fix My Life episode that came on last night, featuring Diamond. I forgot her last name, but she was Philando Castile's girlfriend, the one that was shot in his car when he was trying to pull out his identification, and he let the officer know that he had a firearm, and this officer shot and killed him. So she was on Iyanla Vanzant. So I normally don't review this show, but I just wanted to come in here and talk about it because it actually affected me in a way that I didn't think it would. Diamond came on to Iyanla basically to get help with how to cope with his death and to move forward in her life, because the trauma of his death and witnessing it is taking its toll on her, and she wants to know how she can heal, not only for her but for her daughter who also experienced it. So I just felt like it was just such a touching story, and I just felt so bad for her and her pain, because you could tell that it's very hard for her to let it go, and that image of him dying is still affecting her to this day. So I'm glad that she reached out to Iyanla, and I hope that this really truly helped her. The episode basically started with her telling us about Philando, how he was a gentleman, he was a caring person. When he came into her life, he brought stability, a routine, and she had a sense of family with him. So it just hurt me to know that that was taken away from her, basically. She explained why he had a gun and he got a license to carry, and that was basically because they lived in a rough area where people were constantly getting robbed. She said no matter if you had, they saw you with a nice chain or jewelry, they'll try to rob you. They see you going to the bank, they try to rob you. They had prostitution, drug dealers. So he wanted to protect himself and his family, so he became a licensed carrier. And it's a shame that with him doing that, exercising his right, he lost his life. She's saying basically, that it's hard for her to just accept that he's gone. She can't put rest in peace in front of his name. She even keeps up with the anniversary of his death. I mean, the length of his death down to the days. She said it's been like 468 days since he died. And I'm like, that cannot be good for her to hold on to that, to count the days of him being away. Like, that's got to be eating her up inside. So it's just hard for her to even see, the different killings that are going on TV. You see it all the time. And I feel like even with me and just us in general, Black people or people that care about these things that happen, it gets like to the point where you do feel like you have PTSD. But also at the same time, you become kind of numb to it, because it has become the norm that we have Black people of color who are gunned down when they really didn't have to. He only asked Diamond about her future and what she thought, and she honestly said that she doesn't see a future. Since he's been gone, she can't see a future. It's hard to picture her life, having a future. And probably a lot of that is also guilt. She probably feels guilty about moving on with her life. And I can't relate, but I can understand, I can definitely understand. She asked her what would she say to the officer, and she said, basically she would tell him that she exposed her and her daughter's deepest fear, which was to lose someone that they truly love. So Iyanla basically told her, you don't have to live in that trauma, because that officer, whether you believe it or not, it's not your trauma to deal with. Like, you didn't do anything, basically. And that officer he lives with it. I'm sure he definitely lives with it every day. She was like, do you still see him, the gun? Do you hear the gunshots? She said, yes. She said, so does he. Do you see the blood? She said, yes. So does he. Do you hear your baby crying and yelling? She said she does. She said, so does he. So he's definitely going to have to live with that, and he's going to have to pay for it. And I'm sure he's not going to be able to live a normal life anymore, because now that especially he's been exposed, he can't live a normal life. So next they bring in Trayvon Martin's mother, to kind of talk about her experience and does she experience trauma, and she said that she does, but as time goes on, it gets better to deal with, and she has a support system. So she met with Diamond, and you could tell that kind of helped her and made her feel good to see her, because Sabrina has become the face of, these tragedies. She has been the one that everyone else has been leaning on, and that's a big task to take, to be the face, to be the person that everybody looks to when they're dealing with their own situation. So Sabrina was telling her, get yourself in a support group. Get yourself around people that will support you. Ignore the negativity. Don't take that with you. Take what you can from the positive and move forward with your life. She shared with her a scripture that she said helps her, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. I know it, but I don't remember it offhand. So yeah, she said, you just got to try to get that support, definitely. And as time go on, you never know what God's plan was. Well, he may have made it where it's going to be your mission to help others who have gone through this situation, because that's what Sabrina has been doing. And Sabrina said it. She made it clear. I did not want this. I want my son back. I'd rather have my son. But God told her, this is what it is. This is what I want you to do. This is your calling. And so she just accepted. And she said, actually, as time goes on, her helping other people actually helps to heal her. So maybe Diamond will have to do something like that. Next, Iyanla had a retired officer come on. His main mission was to talk to Diamond in place of the man who killed her boyfriend. She wants to talk about how the people can trust the police again, and the police can trust the people. How can they work on their relationship? And she was saying, how do I tell my 12-year-old son, my grandson, that he's a descendant of kings and queens from Africa, but when he comes to the police, he has to cower over and put his head down. We're all trying to figure it out. I have several nephews. I have 5 nephews that I often wonder, 4 nephews, I'm sorry, I'm giving myself more nephews. I have 4 nephews that are young men, and 2 of them are 6'4". They look fully grown, even though they're not fully grown yet. I've had this conversation with one of them in particular, about how to approach police officers and how to conduct yourself when you talk to police officers, because you never know when they're trigger happy. And how do we talk to our youth or anybody about dealing with the police? And he was saying about complying, and she was like, you do comply. I give this officer credit because he did acknowledge that situation with Philando was very horrible. And he talked about Tamir Rice, and he said, the problem with that was, these officers are not vetted. They're not heavily vetted. That officer in particular had been fired at another district. He got fired, and instead of them basically kicking him off, banning him or putting him on a list of look, don't hire this person because he may not have the best practices when it comes to being an officer, he just goes over to the next town and then works again and gets away with the same thing. So, and also he said the civilians should stop making excuses. And at first, Ilana and I both were looking like, what does that mean? But he was saying, don't blame it on the training. They need more training because they get the best training. He said he went over what they basically train for. And he said that's not the issue. It's the fact that these cops do not practice the training that they get. They don't fully and properly execute the training that they receive. So don't blame it on the training. Because he said, and it's another thing that'll keep them from being really like accountable and really trying to force them to do what they're supposed to do. Because what they'll do is say, okay, we'll add more training and that's it. But they should acknowledge the fact that these guys have had the proper training. They just don't know what they're doing. And he also said something that was true, that some of them really, honestly, don't need to be cops. They're not made to be cops. So Iyanla had Diamond to come in, and she told her to tell him what she felt, and she said that I'm afraid when I see a cop that I'm gonna die. And he said, wow, that's deep. And he said, well, maybe you can go to your local police station and speak to the officers, because here in New York, when we're in New York, we can have you come in there and talk to them about your experience and how they took away Philando and how he was a good person and how this is affecting you. And I guess it can help with training them as far as when they get into another situation, a next situation where they feel like they may need to use their firearm when they really don't have to. Maybe they'll think about her story. And she said, they haven't even reached out to her in her town. And I'm like, that's crazy. They're only concerned about the mother, which is fine. They should be concerned about the mother, but her and her daughter were the one that was in the car with him when it happened. So why is no one reaching out to them? Why aren't they getting the support that they need? Because she definitely needs the support. And I'm not just talking about financial, I'm talking about emotional. She needs support. This woman witnessed them shoot her boyfriend. And every time I see that video and his arm, it's like they shot his arm off. Like that's insane. So she and her daughter definitely needs the support. And he said he's in contact with Eric Garner's family, and that now that they have a better relationship with the police. So, hopefully she can go back to her town. I think that happened in Minnesota. She can go back and get the support that she needs, because that's a lot to try to carry. And she definitely needs to get to a point where she can move on with her life and not let that, like, you can remember him without thinking about that in particular, the trauma of what happened. Remember the good times. Remember the laughs that you all shared, the intimate moments that you all shared. Like, she definitely needs to move past that traumatic situation, and let him rest peacefully. And then she deal with the fact that it's okay to move on and to think about her future and possibly finding love again. And they did a exercise with her to get her to basically just verbalize everything that she's feeling, speak the truth as far as Philando is not coming back, that she'll love him, but she has to think about her future and move forward. So, and it seemed like it did help her, that exercise. I didn't get it at first with the tapping in, but it seemed like it did actually help. So I'm really rooting for her. Again, like I said, this really broke my heart, and I just want to come here and talk about it because, like, I was almost in tears watching it, and I really hope that she gets the help that she needs and that she can move forward in her life and have restful nights again and just live her life happily. So that's all, guys. I just want to come here and talk about that. I hope you all are having a great day so far. It's going into the evening. So I'll talk to you guys again soon. Alrighty, y'all.